Welcome back to my Oklahoma Sooners Death Penalty Dynasty. Today we are officially wrapping up Season 3 and headed into our third official offseason, which will be the offseason obviously for Season 4. So last year we were able to add 10 new players to the team from recruiting, but they could only be 2 stars. This year I can only add 10 still, but now they can be up to 3-star recruits. Also after this offseason we will get the 3 transfers that transferred in last season, and they will be able to be added to our team, and if any more transfers come in, obviously we will take them as well. But now let's look around the country to see who is fighting for a playoff spot. Starting off, it looks like Northern Illinois will take on Buffalo in the MAC championship. The Big 12 championship is West Virginia and Baylor. The SEC title game is Auburn and the Georgia Bulldogs, who have only played 11 games. That's a little odd. The Mountain West championship is between UNLV, who is ranked number 4, and Air Force. So if UNLV wins, they're most likely in the playoffs. The ACC championship is between Clemson and Miami, who is ranked number 2, and the Pac-12 is between Arizona State and Washington, who is ranked 5, and then the Big 10 is Nebraska and Maryland. And it looks like the running back for Florida, DeMarcus Bowman, has won the Heisman due to his 27 total touchdowns. Before we see how all the playoffs have wound up, let's go ahead and take a look at our stats. Clark Nelson finishes with the highest QBR, goes 123 of 217, 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns to 7 picks. James Thompson, 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and Trevor Winston, 0 touchdowns but 6 interceptions. He did not have to play much, but when he did, it was not very good. Running the ball, Clark Nelson led the team in attempts, even though he missed a good chunk of the season, but so did BJ Smith. Clark Nelson ends with 550 yards and 4 touchdowns. BJ Smith ends with 460 and 6 touchdowns. But leading the team in touchdowns is James Thompson, the backup quarterback, with 7 rushing touchdowns. Leading the team in receptions is Tim Scott with 35 and over 600 yards and 3 touchdowns. It looks like 3 was the magic number here, with Patrick Wood also catching 3 and Shannon Montgomery catching 3. Dallas Tremblay leads the team in tackles with 94. The next closest person is Kawika Moore with 65. What about tackles for loss? That goes to Justin Richardson with 13 and Thomas Jackson with 12. And sacks also goes to Justin Richardson with 6. How about interceptions? Tim Wilson with 3 on the season. Marcel Mason got 1 and Kawika Moore got 1. Nationally, Kai Milner for California led the country in quarterback rating. What about yards? That also goes to Milner. Touchdowns also goes to Milner. He only threw 7 interceptions. Who threw the most picks? That goes to Nicholas Vadatillo. I probably just butchered the hell out of that name. On the ground, Harrison Whaley runs for 2,200 yards, almost 23, and 21 touchdowns. How did he not win the Heisman? Just because Bowman got 23 touchdowns, he only had 1,200 yards. Receiving, Dylan Goffney is the only person to break 100 receptions with 103, but in yards, that is Taj Davis with 1,500, and touchdowns goes to Dylan Goffney with 20. No huge sack numbers this season, as Jefferson for Boise State and Hayes for Pitt only get 10.5 to lead the country. Henry Gray and Amir McDaniel both lead the country in interceptions because they both got 8. We had no one on the first or second team, but Kawika Moore does land on the All-American freshman list. Let's take a look at the conference championships. Northern Illinois wins 42-13 in the MAC championship. Baylor is headed to the playoffs as they beat West Virginia 42-17. Auburn upsets undefeated Georgia 38-35. Georgia will probably still get into the playoffs, but Auburn has secured their spot. Air Force wins the Mountain West. Miami is probably going to go in as the number 1 team as they are 13-0 and they win the ACC 42-18. Washington shuts out Arizona State 31-0. And then Nebraska wins 38-28, so Nebraska will be headed to the playoffs. And here's how the playoffs will line up. Miami is taking on Nebraska. Arkansas State, who is undefeated, is taking on Baylor. Georgia is taking on Florida. And Washington is taking on Auburn. And then here is how the first round went. Miami takes down Nebraska 41-31. Arkansas State advances after beating Baylor 38-34. Auburn wins 31-24 over Washington. And Georgia loses their second game in a row, this one to Florida 31-28. We will have to go look at what the actual score was of Florida-Miami because this says it was 34-34, but Arkansas State wins 49-42 to advance to the national championship, and apparently Florida won, but we'll have to go look at the score. So it had to replace them with Eastern Michigan. It's just how the playoff mod has to work, but they won 52-34 over Miami. So now we have the national championship game between Florida and Arkansas State. Winner and your new national champions, the Florida Gators, as they beat Arkansas State 38-7, and now we can finally get into the offseason. And it looks like for the 3rd straight year we've been fired again, so I will go ahead and fix that one more time. Okay, so I've had to recreate head coach John Knight one more time, The only funny part is I'm pretty sure Pat Knight is one of the former coaches that was John Knight that I renamed. He must have got fired and then come back. That or it's a massive coincidence that the last name is still Knight. Now that it's all said and done and John Knight is back as head coach as the Oklahoma Sooners, let's head to players leaving, and we have nobody leaving or transferring, which is obviously a good thing for us. And now we're in the next part where we could see draft results if we had anyone that got drafted. And we also have transfer requests, so let's see if we have anyone coming in. It looks like 2 left tackles want to join us, both true freshmen. One from, it looks like, Colorado State and the other one from Northwestern. We will go ahead and take both of those. Obviously, they will not be able to play this season, though. So I did a lot better this season than I did in the past couple seasons in terms of offering scholarships to players, where like last year we could only recruit 10 people or bring in 10 people. I think I had to cut 10 people in total because I had like 20. Well, here I think I only have 12 people that have committed to us, so I should only have to cut 2 of them. It showed a few more committed on National Signing Day, so I guess that's kind of my bad. We probably still have to cut about 6 people, but still better than we did last year, I think. And yeah, this year I may have overdone it a bit with scouting athletes, but I'm going to try to keep all 5 of these guys because I think they could really help us out. The first guy I'm going to assign is Wayne Outlaw. He has 91 speed, he has 73 catching, I believe. We're going to move him to wide receiver where he is a 74 overall. And then Jeff Benson with 90 speed. He can play quarterback, a kind of bad running back, or a 73 overall receiver. We're going to go ahead and move him to receiver as well. I wish this guy had the coverage to be a corner because a 6'5 corner would be nice, but we're going to make Ty Downing a quarterback and probably have to redshirt him or make him like a 3rd string. He may start over the guy that transferred in though, I'm not 100% sure. And then Kellen Simmons here, I'm not 100% sure if this will be one of the guys to make the team because he's really not terrific at anything, but his best spot is running back, which is where we will put him. And then athlete Eric Kemp, he is a 66 overall. He's a 67 overall quarterback, but looking through here, he is a 70 overall free safety, so we're going to put him on the other side of Kawika Moore. And now for my favorite part of the offseason, training results. Let's see how much better everyone got. Clark Nelson goes to a 70 overall. Ryan Thomas, which is the quarterback that transferred in, I think from UTSA, is a 69 overall. What about throw power and throw accuracy? We're going to have to see if that true freshman that I put here is any better than them. BJ Smith goes up to a 78 overall, +2 to speed, which is big, and +2 to acceleration. Tim Scott gets +6 to his overall, +1 to speed. He now has 99 awareness, which is a little weird. What about catching? His catching is now a 99. Okay, so he improved a lot. We have 2 guys that come in and really help us. As freshmen too, we may actually have a solid offense this year. Kevin Archie only gets +2, but Eric Cook gets +7, which is obviously a pretty big help for him. Alan Davis and Marlon Ellis both got a little better there at left tackle. Left guard, Jimmy Austin is now a 70 overall. At center, I did recruit a new center, so we'll see where he fits in. At right guard, a 41 overall, so probably not going to be playing him. And at right tackle, another 41 overall. Probably won't be playing him too much. Defensive end, Justin Richardson gets +2 to his overall. On the other end, Thomas Jackson, who I think was one of the guys we brought in last year, got +1. Defensive tackle, Mike Handy gets +2, and Ronnie Simpson actually loses 2. Jeff Ryan, our outside linebacker, gets +1. Our middle linebacker, Dallas Tremblay, gets +3. And right outside linebacker, we still don't have one on the roster. Okay, our corners did not improve at all. That is a little bit concerning. Tim Wilson didn't improve. Curtis Samuel lost 1. Nick Brooks got a little better. But I was kind of hoping these 2 guys that I brought in as freshmen last year would get a little bit better. None of these guys are really going to matter at free safety because I think we just got a new one in recruiting, and then at strong safety, Kawika Moore goes up to a 66 overall. Our roster size is actually at 82, so I will probably have to cut more than just a few freshmen that got in here. It did recruit 16 freshmen and 1 JUCO transfer, so we can only keep 10 of those guys, so let me go through here and pick out the 10 that I want. Here are the 10 players I am keeping from this recruiting class. Running back Kellen Simmons, quarterback Ty Downing, defensive tackle John Long, defensive end John McGill, outside linebacker Jake Wright, free safety Eric Kemp, wide receiver Joey Miller, center Scott Campbell, wide receiver Jeff Benson, and wide receiver Wayne Outlaw. So with the decisions that I've made, I still have 5 players left to cut, so let's go ahead and go do that. The first player I'm going to cut is quarterback Ryan Corbett. I would cut Winston, but Winston was our starter through like season 1, and I feel like it's just kind of sentimental to keep him for his last season, so we're going to cut Corbett. We're going to cut running back Henry Foster as well, just because he will never find the field on this depth chart. I, for some reason, have multiple left tackles on the team, so we're going to cut Eric Suggs, who was the worst tackle on our team. I'm also going to cut defensive tackle William Malone because he has fallen to a 39 overall. and will definitely never see the field. And then the last player I'm cutting is Jamal Kearney, a defensive back that is so buried on the depth chart, just another guy that will never touch the field. Here is the schedule for next season. I pretty much changed every game on the schedule. We will start with a home opener against Arkansas, then we will travel to Colorado, at Kansas State, have a bye week, then UTSA, then Indiana, at Texas, at Kansas, another bye week, then we'll take on Minnesota, Kentucky, and then we'll travel to California, then we'll take on BYU, then a bye week, and then we will travel to Stillwater for Bedlam. We may have had an easier schedule last season, I'm not going to lie, but we did go 1-11, so this year I've kind of toned it down a little bit. We still take on Power 5 opponents, and there's still some good teams in there, so I'm sure we will still have some tough games, and I'm sure we will still lose quite a few games. But that will wrap up this video. We are not going to redshirt anybody. I know I mentioned it earlier in the video, but we're just not going to redshirt anybody. I don't think we can really afford it. But I will go through the depth chart and the roster, change numbers and stuff like that, and then you guys will get to see the starters in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you guys next time.